Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Wisdom of the Soul, presented by the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. I really appreciate you joining us live whenever you can, and when you're unable to for any reason, by usually 24 hours, by midday Monday, this is posted on YouTube in its entirety, and an edited version is also posted as a podcast, although there's about a week or 10-day delay on that. But the podcast, by the way, goes back, gosh, uh, to 2008. What is that, 15 years? I have about 580 episodes on that podcast stream. Also, Ageless Wisdom Mystery School, a variety of iterations. Some are webinars. Some of them we take telephone calls. Some are quite short, and some go on and on and on. Many of them include guided imagery meditations. So we always appreciate a review as well. Amazon accepts reviews. I don't think Spotify does yet, but Podchaser is another one where you can leave a review and a rating. Those are important to us. And also, if you haven't ever left a review for my book on Amazon, that really helps a lot. It's not just an ego thing, it really drives our visibility in keyword searches when you leave. You know, whatever is honest and sincere, your opinion of the book um, uh, means a lot, just means a lot. So if you can do that, when you can do that. We still have a couple openings in the Saturday Salon if you want to get really serious about studying this material in a small group of, well, it's limited to 10. Just send me an email or read about it on my website, michaelbenner.com. And of course, I do private work too. And all too often, people come at the last minute, when they've bottomed out, when their relationship, for example. I've been doing a lot of couples counseling lately, and it's striking to me how people wait until they're desperate, you know, and often things have been said that are hard to forget. And if you just handle it a little bit sooner, we can not only save the marriage and resolve the friction in the relationship, but teach you skills to be better communicators in the future. Most people are not very good at arguing or managing their emotions. And it's interesting to me that emotional intelligence is such an important portal or doorway to spiritual development. After all, why do we do this? We talked about this yesterday in the salon. Why do we care? Why are we interested in such things? Why do you guys come to a class like this? Well, we want to get rid of our frustration, our anxiety, our discontent, our suffering, our anger, even our alienation and victimization. Wouldn't it be nice to drop that and just replace it with some contentment and some happiness and maybe even joy? And so the reason many spiritual traditions really fail to teach what people want to learn, and they end up feeling as if they're spinning their wheels or they jump from one teacher to another teacher, is that I was going to say many of them, I'll say most spiritual traditions skip the personal development. They ignore, sidestep, or do an end run around emotional intelligence. And you can't. You can't do that. You've got to go into and through emotional intelligence to find love on a higher turn of the spiral, so to speak, to develop that consciousness and expand your awareness, your insight and your understanding. You have to have a sense of responsibility for your emotions. for how you feel, not just about the conditions that you're in, which is what we obsess on, but how we feel about what's our response to the situation. That's what we can control. We tend to try to control the stimulus, control the world around us, control what's already happened, and the idea of managing our response to it. And just accepting reality, acknowledging the truth of the situation you're in, and then managing your response. That seems to escape a lot of us. So, may seem a little odd, but it's true that we have to develop the persona, the personality, the ego, the small self, in order to transcend it. It's just the way of things. So, we've got the free class every Sunday. We've got the Salam on Saturdays. Go to michaelbenner.com and click on personal development. You can read about that. And then the private intensive as well. First one's free, no obligation. We want to set that up. We're going to talk today about free will and karma. This is a complex and challenging subject to discuss because it's so nuanced. And before we do a meditation here at the top of the class, I would just like to say that we so often talk about the amygdala, which is that small structure of neurons at the base of the skull in the limbic brain, so-called, the emotional center, that we think of as the fight or flight center. It's an actual brain structure called the amygdala. And in people who are frightened or easily frightened, confused, distracted, anxious, reactionary in their behavior, feeling very alienated, that amygdala tends to be larger than average. And in people who meditate, who particularly mindfulness meditation or vipassana, the amygdala has been shown to literally shrink. Imagine that. Meditation shrinks the fight or flight center. You become less afraid. And it grows the gray matter and the white matter of the brain. You actually can grow, even if you're 40, 50, 60 years old. You can grow literally the size and weight of your brain through mindfulness meditation, to paying attention to the present, to this eternal unfolding instant, and letting go of your worries or concerns or regrets about the past and your anticipation of the future. That's where all your anxiety lives, in the past and the future. Regrets and resentments from the past and those shadowy fears of what may be. Reality lives in the present moment. And to be able to watch in meditation, or then as you open your eyes and move about in your daily life and affairs, to pay attention to what's happening right now and doing it without judgment. A lot of people define meditation, mindfulness meditation, and they leave that part out. Oh, it's just paying attention to the present moment. It's noticing what you notice. Yeah, but don't leave out that that's a critical element, without judgment, you see, because judgment shuts you down on understanding. And 9 times out of 10 or more, that judgment is about the world outside of you, which we obsess on because we think that's where our problems are. The problems, the problems are not out there. The problem is in here. If you understood it, it wouldn't be a problem, right? So turn within. That just doesn't occur to us. We'd rather change the world, become politically and socially active so that we can enjoy some personal benefit. And of course, we do that with love too. We want somebody to love us so that we're then able to love others. We're working the program backwards in both regards. Turn it around, change yourself, love yourself, and give that to the world. Personal transformation is the answer. It's what I've dedicated my life to, and I know countless numbers of people in my life who, through that devotion, that dedication to developing the self, the suffering and the discontent falls away, and it's easier to be happy and even joyous, which is happy for no reason. And also, any concern that you may have, this may not be an issue for you, but it was for me for a while. Any concern that you have that this kind of self-improvement or self-help or self-interest or self-regard or self-love is going to make you selfish and self-centered and arrogant and pompous and conceited and all full of yourself, exactly the opposite is true. It's a beautiful thing to realize that the better you understand yourself, the more humble you become. Not in a meek, shy, oh, I can't do that kind of a, you know, introverted way. Humility is simply understanding that everyone is an equal part of one thing. Nobody is more important than anybody else. And that's not limited to the human kingdom, that the animals are as important. Our domestic animals, our wild animals, are every bit as important as we are. Even insects, as much as we think of them as vermin and pests, pestilence, uh, look at the honeybee collapse. That's already beginning to impact food and agriculture, moths as well. Um, these insects play an important role in pollinating not only food crops but other plants, and there's a delicate balance here. I'm not going to lecture you on environment and ecosystem. I'm talking about a kind of humility that allows us to recognize that everything is important in this ecosystem, this life support system. So we need to honor and respect the animals and the plants and the minerals, the elements, and see it as all part of one whole thing. But just on the human level, not to compete and degrade and demean and seek a kind of power that allows you to dominate other people. Best you lift them up. I've done a lot of corporate seminars where the emphasis was on teaching managers and executives to lift up their employees instead of hold them down. The major dysfunctions in business, I'm not sure how many of you are business people, supervisors, managers, executives, but the tendency is to hold on to your own power and your own position, to delegate responsibility, but to withhold the authority that the people you manage need. And if we would delegate authority with the responsibility, then we create a leadership engine that drives people up through the chain of command, up the ladder of success. You want to always be training your replacement so that you can move up, which means you got to let go of the holding on. We see that in business. We see that need in life as well. So, the primary point I want to make about karma and free will is that this is not a matter of either or. The reason I was talking about the amygdala was that that's what it's really that brain structure, plus the fact that our brain is really two brains in one, a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. That we tend to see everything as an either or, anything that's different as an opposite. It's the amygdala more than any other structure in the brain that divides the world into us and them. And so we see an issue like free will or volition and determinism or predestination or karma as so different that they must be opposite. And then we have a great debate, like the debate between creationism and evolution. It's got to be one or the other. It couldn't possibly be both. I don't know why not. So the truth is that both free will and karma play a role in our lives. And what I'd like to do today is talk about the nuances of that. How could both things be true? How could we be constrained by karma and still have free will? And if we have free will, then how does karma work? And so I'll explain that today. We'll talk a little about that based on the larger metaphysical concept and really core principle in metaphysics that energy follows thought, and that essentially who and what we are is consciousness. What does that mean? It means we're not our thoughts. And when I say energy follows thoughts, there are deliberate and purposeful thoughts which are intentional, and karma comes from intention. But there are also the task unrelated thoughts, as if the mind has its own agenda, so-called intrusive thoughts that just bubble up on their own when we're not applying our mind to a particular task. Like I'm going to write this down, or I'm going to balance my checkbook, or I want to read this book, or make a decision or set a goal. Those are task-related, TRT, that's what brain researchers call them, task-related thinking. And you sort of put the mental car into gear, ease out the clutch as you press on the accelerator, and you direct your mind into a particular activity. But there are large blocks of time in our daily lives when we're idling in neutral and we're really not going anyplace or doing anything purposeful or intentional. There's no intent behind it. And the mind continues to think. It's arguable whether you could even call it thinking. Most of us do. Hey, Bill, you see Bill staring out the window. Hey, Bill, what are you thinking about? Penny for your thoughts. Oh, nothing. Nothing much. Just, thinking. But are you really, or are you watching your mind generate these task unrelated thoughts, these intrusive thoughts, which are largely negative, filled with self-doubt, fears of anxiety, and self-loathing? What if we study that? What if we became the awareness behind it and could elevate our perspective and look as if non-attached? I want to say detached, but that would be oblivious. Just unhook, become non-attached, step back, and watch that happen. I love this concept. This is largely what we work on in the Saturday Salam, is developing that awareness of your thoughts. As if awareness and thoughts are two levels. Some thoughts you're more aware of, some patterns of thinking, some belief systems we're more aware of, and others not so aware of. Why do you think that? Why do you believe that's true? Well, I don't know. Everybody thinks that's true. Or why do you feel the way you feel? A lot of what occurs in those task unrelated thoughts are influences of karma. And so we think we have free will, but a lot of the choices that are presented to us are karmic in nature. And so I think you're getting a sense already that karma is more than, far more than a system of reward and punishment. It's more akin to cause and effect. There are consequences for the way we think and the actions that we take, but it's really the intention behind it all. And most of us are not aware of ourselves as intentional creatures. We think, but we don't really observe our thinking. It would take meditation, wouldn't it? We feel, but it's hard for us to get above it and look at the feeling and understand it. Usually all we know to do is think about it. And I suspect you've noticed by now that thinking about feelings does, doesn't really help. You just spin your wheels. You've got to feel a feeling and identify as the awareness of it. And where do we go for reinforcement on this? Who are you going to talk to about this? Most people have no interest at all. No interest in this at all. So you do because you're here, and others who are here, and the people who watch the YouTube video and listen to the podcast. Take heart. There are many, many people that are working on this. That's where we're at. This is the cutting edge of where we are in terms of human evolution, is recognizing that there is an element above thought, feeling, and behavior, or thought, feeling, behavior, and perception of the world. Or to make it simple, just thoughts and perceptions. That's what the mind is. It's thoughts and perceptions. But consciousness reigns above that. Are you aware of being aware? Do you notice what you notice? I love the Eckhart Tolle story in one of his first books. He said he was really, really depressed, and one day he said to himself, I hate myself when I feel like this. And the second thought that occurred to him was, wait a minute, if I hate myself when I'm depressed, how many of me are there? There's the part that's depressed, and there's the part that is frustrated with being depressed. How many how many of me are there? And I think of Alice in Wonderland with the hookah smoking caterpillar. And the caterpillar asks that great question of self inquiry: who are you? Well, Alice had been eating mushrooms and she got really big. And then she had the little sip of the whatever was in the bottle, and she got really small and almost drowned in a river of her tears. So she's been tripping, and she answers the caterpillar by saying, well, I don't know, because I'm not myself, you see. I'm not myself. You are not yourself, the one you presume yourself to be, any more than you are the character in the video game you play, or the person you identify with in the TV or the film that you're watching. We forget that we're the observer, that we can stand back. And that allows us to make better choices and improve our karma, to use free will to transcend the bonds of karma, so that the karma that we generate becomes more and more virtuous and more pleasant. Let's do a meditation. Then we'll talk more about free will and karma. If you close your eyes and relax, get settled in your chair, Feel the furniture supporting you and relax into that, reminding yourself that the chair or the furniture, your meditation pillow, certainly does not need your cooperation. Just completely surrender into a letting go feeling. Again, with eyes closed, get a sense of being balanced, as if absolutely no muscular tension is required, because your head is balanced perfectly on your neck and shoulders. And your shoulders are square and directly above your hips. Your back is relaxed, and you feel that relaxation all the way down to the soles of your feet. And while your awareness is on the bottom of your feet, imagine roots, electrical lines of force, really. They're electromagnetic lines of force that reach from your feet down into the earth, through your shoes, through the carpeting, through the flooring. You could be 15 stories high and still imagine how a tree would feel to be deeply rooted into the earth. Bring that to mind. What if you felt plugged in and grounded, as if you really belong here, that this is where you grow, and that you're like a lightning rod, a purposeful path of least resistance to bring energy down, spirit, or heaven to earth. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That's how it comes down when you, through relaxation, make yourself a path of least resistance. And so just as you feel rooted into the earth and supported by the furniture on which you sit, stand open and receptive to a downward precipitation of this energy, almost as if it were a gentle spring rain sprinkling down into the top of your head. Imagine a big funnel that brings this energy into your skull, your brain, your spine. Your brain and your spine sits in a bath of cerebral spinal fluid. And that fluid is a conductor. It conducts energy and brings it into the body through nerves to every nook and cranny, every corner and crevice in your body, to the tips of your fingers and toes, to your earlobes, to the edges of your shoulders and your elbows and knees. You feel like a battery being charged. Battery is hooked to earth ground and to its power source. Opposite polarities that are unified, a union of opposites. And the battery in the middle is charged. So we too, as meditators, allow ourselves to become vivified, charged electrically with a force that is consciousness, awareness, and love with a capital L. Love is awareness that everything is connected to every other thing. Love reveals separation as an illusion, for it connects every part to the whole. Love is the longing of the part to be whole. You feel that connection, that desire for connection. Love is the longing of the part to be whole. That's what it means to be conscious, to be aware. It's to understand you are a branch of one tree. You are one jigsaw piece in the large jigsaw puzzle. You are one pixel, one colorful dot in a matrix that is a photograph or a video display screen. The one and the many stand in the middle, connected to earth and sky, to the material world and the ethereal world. You're both energy and mass, spirit and matter, the father and the mother. Consciousness is the offspring or the interface of energy and mass. We are aware. Take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths. Big, deep breath. And as you exhale, feel a little more letting go. Feeling very safe. Feeling relaxed. And then as you allow your breathing to return to normal, that's another letting go. Letting go of the sense of yourself as the breather. And instead you simply elevate your perspective to that of the observer of your body breathing itself. And gently place your awareness somewhere on the bottom of your nose, wherever it feels most comfortable to settle in, a little pinpoint of awareness at the very point where breath enters and leaves your nostrils. And just watch your body breathing. This is an in-breath. This is an out-breath. And I could be the breather at any time. I could hold my breath, or I could take another one of those big, slow, deep breaths, or I could even pant rapidly if I so desired. Then I would be the breather. But right now, I choose to be the observer, to elevate my perspective and stand above this body that breathes itself. And you watch the body breathing itself all by itself. And maybe even wonder why it hasn't occurred to you to identify in this way as your awareness. And as we develop this perspective, you see, we can turn our attention gently to the mental drift, to that train of thoughts that perpetually chugs through the brain. And which now seems almost like a distraction. Feel the discomfort, or at least the unfamiliarity that goes with watching your mind think. Notice the distraction. Take a minute. I'll be quiet for just a minute. And watch what the mind does. Put a little smile on your face because you're gaming the system. Let the corners of your mouth turn up slightly because you're the Cheshire Cat. You understand now what the deal is. And without judging, simply watch the mind petition you for attention until you hear my voice again in a minute. And from this elevated perspective, you can ask yourself, who is thinking these thoughts if I am watching them occur? What is here right now that is not a thought? Like a dream that you have during sleep and remember in the morning, or in some cases, as in lucid dreaming, can be aware of as a dream while you dream it. But more commonly, when you awaken in the morning and remember a dream, there's a realization that it was only a dream. You thought it was real while you were dreaming, felt real enough, And then you realized it was only a dream. It wasn't real. It was a projection of your thoughts from your unconscious while you slept. Understand that your waking life, in the same way, is a projection of your thoughts and feelings. That your life is a reflection of your projection. That what we call reality, small r reality, is a perception assembled in our heads. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. And that awareness gives you free will to choose what to do with the conditions that karma has created. Form the intention to return to the waking state, remembering your insights and revelations and epiphanies, the understanding of this elevated perspective. Feel a gentle floating up, like a scuba diver floating up toward the surface of the water. Look up, see the surface of the water above you, reaching for it. You break the surface and open your eyes now, wide awake. Eyes open now, wide awake, back in the room, feeling fine. Maybe stretch a little bit. Take another nice, slow, deep breath and wake yourself up. Gently stamp your feet on the floor. Do a wiggle, do a shake. Come back into your body. Feel your physical body and the chair supporting you back in the room. Christ's teaching that we reap what we sow is a wonderful, wonderful allegory for how karma works, cause and effect, the consequences not only of our action, but not even our thought, but the intention behind it. If you have a good, moral, virtuous intention, you're trying, and you screw up, you're not going to generate harmful, painful karma as a result. The karma you'll generate will be a reflection of your good intention. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. Okay? Even those who don't deserve it. Forgive them anyway. Forgiveness, of course, is a gift to yourself because you put it down. You put down the grudge. You put down the pain. You put down the discomfort. Why? We think we're punishing the other by holding on to our anger, and we're the one who suffers. Buddha talks about throwing a burning coal at somebody because you're angry at them. All you do is burn your hand. Sort of a silly thing to do, but we do it. We're going to teach them. We're going to set them straight. Can't let them get away with it. That's my job, to fix the whole damn universe and ignore myself. Karma is not something that happens to you. It's life moving through you. Everything is karmic. The reality that you see before you is not objective. It's actually quite subjective, and you are the subject. Whatever you consider yourself to be, a separate individual banging around as a form in a world of separate forms, or an overshadowing soul above and free of form, or the almighty source itself. You are the subject. You are the infinite subject. You are infinite consciousness, but the brain filters that out. And so consciousness becomes very limited and very focused, mostly on a selfish self, a separative self that is struggling to survive in a dangerous world where everyone and everything is out to get you. And of course, politicians exaggerate that. They're going to protect you from the people who are out to get you. And advertising is based on that, not just shortage, but, you know, you smell bad, you need this product. Uh, you look funny, you need these clothes. You can't drive that jalopy. What do people think? You need a better car. Oh, and somebody's going to run into it, so you need this insurance. And it goes on and on. All fear. Madison Avenue is all fear. Politics is all fear. Oh, let's go to church. It's all fear. You're a sinner. You're a bad person. You're going to hell. Right? Just more advertising. You need what I have. We always are told that what we need, we have to get from someone else. The idea that we have everything that we need, that we are what we're looking for, just doesn't occur to us. And if it does, it doesn't get reinforced. Who are you going to talk to about it? What if everything I need is available to me? What if I have the love I'm looking for? What if I am the love I'm looking for? And what if the one who is looking, how can I say this right? I'm failing to come up with the right language for it. What we are looking for is the one who is looking. How about if I say it that way? I don't think I can attribute that to anybody, but sort of this extant wisdom. We'll have to attribute it to Anonymous, whoever he was or she was, Miss Anonymous. What you're looking for is the one who is looking. You are. Here's another way to say it. To use the word God, which I'm always a little hesitant to do, because it brings up images of this old guy in the cloud. The absolute. There's a great Rumi line. I'll attribute this to Rumi. Uh, I searched for God and found myself. I searched for myself. I found God. There is no separation other than in appearance. So, how do we develop the consciousness to realize that? Through karma. And if you go with the allegory of the garden, that whatever a person sows, that's what we reap. So what you experience in your life is not punishment or reward, but simply the impersonal consequences of our actions, our thoughts, and most fundamentally, the intention behind it. So these are the conditions of the situation in which we find ourselves. Karma is your life. There's nothing in your life that's not karmic. a consequence of your consciousness. And we could say in this life and in past lives, but all of this is actually happening outside of space and time. What space and time does is contribute to the idea of separation. Time separates, space separates. It's with our thinking that we separate past, present, and future. It's our thoughts that separate, that use time to separate, not now, from the present moment. It's a distance between events. That's what the mind does. Our perception creates the separation of space. Our feelings and our perception of the world through physical sense and sensation. The mind creates the illusion of time. It's our perception of the world through physical sensation and emotions that creates the separation of space. But it's all an illusion. You've seen optical illusions. You've looked at those various types of optical illusion where, like that, what do they call them? There's just magical paintings where you stare at this, you just see dots, multicolored dots, and then if you stare at it long enough, suddenly this 3D image pops out of it. It's like your brain had to learn to see it. There are stories about photographs being shown to primitive tribes 100 years ago. They had never seen a photograph, and they couldn't make it out. They couldn't see depth in the photograph. The brain just couldn't perceive that third dimension of depth. They just saw height and width and this flat sheet of paper with colors on it. I've also heard stories that indigenous people, when they saw the European ships on the horizon, didn't really understand that depth either. They thought they were tiny little ships, and they were quite mystified that they would grow so much larger as they approached. I don't know how much of that is true or not, but you understand the optical illusion. Spend a half an hour with a book of Escher drawings. Same thing. Reality is assembled in our heads. The influences that cause people to say that there's no free will, even though you seem to be choosing. This is where this gets nuanced, this free will versus karma. Karma creates the condition. Everything is karmic. Everything is a reflection of you. 10 people in the same situation are making 10 different sets of judgments about it based on 10 unique belief systems. You say, well, within that, Michael, I heard you say we have free will. We do, but the nuance is that our choices are also limited by karma and a variety of other influences, our education and our experience, and personality traits that we've adopted in our attempt to play some character, some role, because we have no real sense, generally speaking, of who we are. We just presume that we have to play a role of some kind. We see that most significantly in the sociopath and the narthopath, the psychopath, the sociopath, the narcissist, for example, is not the only form of sociopathy. The narcissist, the paranoid schizophrenic. Uh, A narcissist will lie because, or maybe better said, will justify lying because they think everybody else is lying. They're faking it because they think everybody else is faking it. And the deal is you just got to be a better liar and better at making up this character. And every day is Halloween for these people. It's like, what costume do I want to put on? And who do I want to be? Who am I characterizing? How do I want to be perceived rather than who am I really? And then present that authentically to the world. How do I want to be perceived? Narcissists and similar personality disorders have this major obsession on appearance and how they are perceived by other people, what other people think of them. And they tend to be really over the top in the way they dress or the car they drive or the house they live in. These things get very important to them because they have no idea who they are. They're petitioning other people for acceptance. Well, all of us have a bit of that. It's not so severe that we lie to everybody about everything. You can decide not to lie. You can decide to do your best to be an authentic and genuine individual, to plumb the depths of your character, but we're still casting about a bit. It takes a lot of experience, a significant amount of maturity to settle in with a sense of truth about who I really am and present that to the world. But all of that affects, don't you see, the free will, the choices that we have to make with our volition. So it's not an either or, karma or free will. It's both. The karma is the condition. This condition, that condition, every condition is a reflection of your consciousness. Everything is, because energy follows thought. You know, manifestation is a big deal in the so-called New Age community. There are a lot of teachers that pose themselves as spiritual teachers that are teaching you to use metaphysical or spiritual laws to manifest prosperity in your life. There's a large part of evangelical fundamentalism that has perverted itself to a so-called prosperity gospel, that God wants you to be rich, even though even though Christ said, give away all of your things and follow me. That a rich person has as much chance to experience enlightenment or go to heaven, so to speak, as a camel has to pass through an eye of a needle. Christ had great contempt. Store your riches in heaven and not on earth, where moth and rust doth not corrupt, and thieves do not break through in the night. Store your riches in heaven, not on earth. What prosperity gospel? Why would you use spiritual laws to generate material wealth and prosperity? The idea is to use laws and principles of manifestation. Energy follows thoughts, or you could say thoughts create reality. That small r reality is an outpicturing of the capital R reality, consciousness, awareness, love. To manifest yourself as a better person. I suggest prosperity will follow on its own. You'll be supported. Things will fall into place. What did Christ say? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and then all things will come upon you. You don't search. This is nonsense. This is just, I don't want to use obscenities on this podcast. Um, this is wrong-headed thinking. change yourself to change the world. And so understand, karma is the big picture. That's the condition you find yourself in. Free will is, what am I going to do with it? This person yelled at me and insulted me. Well, my reflexive reaction is to get angry and yell back at them and insult them. With practice, we could decide to return that negative with a positive and change the world. You say, well, you're not changing very much of the world. Well, okay, you just have to settle for that. I changed the world a little bit. I think there's a certain art to getting pleasure out of doing little things. Hell, I hosed off my barbecue yesterday, got some cleaner, wiped it down, and put a cover on it, and felt like I had accomplished something really big. I spent 10 minutes cleaning up my grody barbecue and felt like I had changed the world. You know, I can change a light bulb and feel good about having done something constructive today. Uh, you've heard me say it before, but it bears repeating. I just love the old Shantideva quote about to avoid injuring your feet and sticks and stones, you could cover the world with leather. That's what most of us do. And he said, wouldn't it just be easier to wear sandals? Stop trying to change the world to save yourself. Fix yourself, heal yourself, know yourself, grow yourself, and express that out into the world. Be the awareness of the karmic conditions that we experience and the awareness that you have volition to choose your response. And be less concerned with the outpicturing of consciousness, the material world, and what you can get so that you can give, and turn it around so that you focus on giving out of your bounty and not needing anything in return, though you will. You'll enjoy, it'll be multiplied and come back on you in great abundance, but it's giving to receive, not receiving to give. It's sowing and then reaping. You don't bring in the harvest before you think about planting seeds. Let's get it straight. Karma and free will. Well, Linda, let's go to the Q&A. We got anybody that wants to?
Kalina has a thought-provoking question, if you'd like me to read it.
Sure.
She asks, if the reflection is a result of the projection, where does the projection come from? That's an interesting one. It's over my pay grade, so you better take it.
there,
projection.
there, on several levels, there is purposeful intention, but then there is awareness behind that. Often our intention that forms the projection that we then see reflected is reflexive. It's a reactionary anger response. It's hostile and defensive. So intention doesn't have to necessarily come from a high level of consciousness. It might be a very low level of consciousness, very little love, very little awareness. I keep emphasizing, understand Christian, Judeo-Christian, Islamic love as consciousness and awareness. It's very, very important. So there may be, in that intention, a lot of hostility and defensiveness and anger and fear. So that's where that projection comes from on one level. But we could also form the intention to stand open and receptive to an expanded awareness or higher consciousness based on the awareness that we're not separated. It's not a you or me world, it's actually a you and me world, which changes our intention and then changes your projection and consequently what's reflected back, what you're assembling in your head all along, the way you look at things. Again, the world is not the way it appears to be. It's the way we see it. Life is what you make it. I mean, what more common adage? Life is what you make it. Nobody believes that. Everybody says that. Nobody believes it. People think life's what's done to me. Right? So that's my best answer. I think that's my best answer to where does it come from. But when you go to awareness itself, now this is where we get into self-inquiry. And this is what the Saturday group is focusing on to a large extent, not exclusively. Where does the awareness come from? All right. Where does the thought come from? And above that, the awareness of the thought. Thought is a process. Thought is a phenomena of mind. It's what consciousness does. It thinks and it perceives. It really has two functions. Awareness thinks and perceives. It perceives emotions. It perceives physical sensations in a very similar way to emotions. Both are felt in the body. How do you feel and how do you feel? How do you feel emotionally? How do you feel physically? There are feelings in the body. And perception is the physical senses. What do I see reflected, the light reflected off some object, some form, some energy field? Light is simply energy reflected into my eyeball, optic nerve, interpreted by the brain. So to hearing, uh, the olfactory and gustatory, fragrance and taste, and tactile touching, and even a sense of where you're oriented physically. Am I upright? Where is my center of gravity? How can I close my eyes and still put my finger on the end of my nose or grab my earlobe without looking? And some people would say even intuition is a sixth sense or a seventh sense. So when we do self inquiry, we ask questions like, what is here that is not a thought? And it's a matter of negating these false ideas to arrive at what remains. And I'm going to offer you a tool that we've used in the Saturday class with great success. Again, this is available to you guys. I've got 2 seats open in the Saturday Salam. Colina is part of that. And this is a tuition-based class, very affordable, Saturdays at 11 California time, limited to 10, small discussion group. But try this out. Try this technique, see what happens. In a nice deep meditation, get all relaxed and warm and cozy. Nice meditation. Watch your breath for 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Identify as the watcher, not the breather. Without judgment, simply observe your body breathing itself and ask, who is breathing me? What is breathing me? Where is this breath coming from? And after 3, 4, 5 minutes of that, you could do 15 or 20 or an hour. Turn your attention to the mental drift and watch your mind petition you for attention. And say to yourself, here's the secret. I wonder what thought will occur to me next. Do that right now. I wonder what thought, I'm listening to Michael. I wonder what thought, but my brain is chattering away. I wonder what thought will occur to me now. And it stops. Your thinking dead in its tracks. And yet you remained. You didn't pass out. You didn't fall asleep. You didn't drop into a coma. You didn't die. For 2 or 3 seconds, your mind stalled. You want to do it again? Okay. Your mind is already thinking. Let's do it again. Watch. You're the observer. You're the witness. I wonder what thought will occur to me next. The mind gets all confused. What? Huh? I thought I was the thought. Wait a minute. But the thought stopped because it was waiting for the thought. I was thinking about thinking about thinking about thinking, and it stalled out. I guess I am the awareness. But then we lose it and we fall back into believing we are the thinker. So, how about training yourself to practice that? Just like you would train a puppy to sit and stay. The puppy does not want to sit and stay. As you back away from the puppy, it wants to follow you. It's a puppy. It wants to play. It wants to be with you. But you're going to train this dog so it doesn't run out into traffic. So repeatedly, gently, kindly, lovingly, sit. Hold, show the palm of your hand. Stay. You shift your whole demeanor. You back away slowly. Stay. Good boy. Good girl. Stay. And you get 5 feet away, and the puppy jumps up and runs at you. And you go, no, 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 no. You go back and sit him down. And next time you get 6 feet away. And then 10 feet away. And then you're able to disappear, and the dog stays. And you come back in the room, and you say, good boy, and you give him a treat. You train the animal. You have to train your mind in the same way. If you really want to understand who you are and be free from the self-imposed torment that we blame on other people and conditions beyond our control. Kalina, do you want to unmute and add to that, follow up on that?
I have to reflect on it a bit. I'm expecting there to be a beginning, I guess, of the awareness. It's not like, I think of time as being something that keeps everything from happening at once, but I don't quite understand what starts the awareness that causes the reflection.
Awareness has no beginning and no end. Awareness is infinite and eternal. It is the eternal now. There's no birth, there's no death. Life has no beginning, and it has no end. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. We learned that in science class in the 9th grade. It's absolutely accepted, not just by mystics, but by hardcore scientists. You cannot destroy energy. You burn a piece of coal, the light and the heat that's released from burning that coal is exactly equal to the amount of sunshine that grew the plant or the animal that became the carbon in the soil that went under enormous pressure to become coal. Maybe more simply said, burn a log, the amount of light and heat that's released from burning, oxidation, burning that log is exactly equal to the amount of heat and light from the sun that it took to grow that piece of wood, that very piece of wood. Nothing is lost. It's a closed system. And consciousness is no different. Consciousness is that eternal energy. Yes, the sun will burn out. The sun is converting mass to energy at an enormous rate. And after millions and millions and millions of years, it'll burn out. Consciousness will not burn out. There are three principles to something being capital R reality or truth. It must be eternal. It must be unchanging, and it must be self-illuminating. In other words, generating energy, manifesting spirit, generating energy without being diminished or consumed in any way. That's the metaphysics above and beyond physics, that outside of space and time. That's the mystery of mysticism, the mystery that the mystic is looking for, and it feels like love, and it looks like consciousness, and it has no beginning, it has no end, it's infinite, it's eternal, it's ultimately unchanging, and yet it condenses, just like humidity becomes water and water becomes ice. The ice is not everywhere, it's only here and there, it's separate. But as humidity, it's everywhere. There's no place that there's not some humidity. And so it is with consciousness. The brain filters consciousness, so we're more or less aware of our thoughts, more or less aware of our feelings, more or less aware of the world around us. When we're spirit condensed into these material forms, like ice. But the awareness that we aspire to move toward so as to expand our consciousness, expand awareness. That Godhead, that's ultimate source, is infinite and eternal. That's who we are. And spiritual growth, transformation, self-realization is about climbing that ladder to that expanded awareness where there is problems are not problems. They're problems and heartache are not obstacles to growth. They are the way we grow. They are the means by which we grow. And then we get with the program. Once you know the game's rigged, bad stuff is much easier to tolerate, and you look for the growth in it. You look for the pony, if you know that old joke. Does that answer your question?
It gives me something to ponder.
Yeah, I would say
To
something
ponder.
something pretty big. Thank you, Kalina. Any other comment, Melinda, or question?
Not now. I think we're all too stunned.
Well,
The idea of the sun burning out, and then what? It kind of had me at that. If energy can't be created or destroyed was generally accepted, does all that energy go to another solar system?
well, energy degrades to heat. So energy can take many forms. There's like ionizing
Yeah.
radiation, right?
Yeah, but
There's,
yeah,
there's light in its various colors. There's sound. There's mechanical vibration.
that's true.
There, energy can take many forms. There's also, we have to deal with how much we do not know. 90% of this universe cannot be perceived.
Hmm.
It's dark energy
Mm,
and
good.
dark matter.
Yeah.
And we only, I say we like I'm some sort of scientist. This is way outside my purview. But scientists know it exists because it's affected by gravity. It responds to gravity. So it exists, but we can't see it. It doesn't reflect light. We have no way of measuring it or gauging it. We can't find it. It seems to be matter that coexists right here, right now, all around us, but in other dimensions that we're not aware of, that we can't perceive.
Yeah.
And that accounts for the fact that the universe is still expanding after the Big Bang, but more to the point, the rate at which the universe is expanding or inflating, it's really inflating like a balloon because everything is moving away from everything else. There is no blue shift, it's all red shift. Everything is moving away from us. And the rate at which that's happening is accelerating. Wait a minute, it ought to be slowing down, right? why why is it still expanding? And moreover, why is that rate of expansion accelerating? Where is that energy coming from? So there's more energy being dumped into the universe all the time. And we have no idea where that's coming from. You see. But like that beauty contest called Miss Universe, it's really limited to people who live on Earth, to human beings on Earth, but we call it Miss Universe.
Probably a
Who's
lucky.
to, it's sort of absurd, right? Arrogant. My
Yeah.
point is, who's to say that this universe is the limit of all that is? Obviously, there's something beyond time and space. There is something outside this universe. The quantum physics principle of entanglement proves that because once two molecules, two electrons, let's say, establish a relationship in a star, they could be exploded out into space, and hundreds of thousands of years later, be hundreds of thousands of light years apart. And if the spin or trajectory of one of those electrons is impacted by an outside force, the other one, thousands, hundreds of thousands of light years away, responds immediately. Not at the speed of light, but immediately. So they're entangled. Their relationship exists outside of space and time. This whole universe is just like one CD. You got a collection of CDs. This is just one of them. This is just one movie in your queue. There's a whole bunch of them. There's so much more going on here. There has to be. How else do we account for this? How do we account for the fact that electrons behave like energy, not particles, until we look at them? And then they behave like particles until you stop looking at them, and then they act like waves again. What is this consciousness, that awareness that turns energy into matter? Literally, verifiably, with the two-slit experiment. It's been repeated hundreds and hundreds of times. We've known this for over 100 years, but it's Einstein, it blew his mind. He didn't like it at all. Uh, He called it spooky. He did not like it. It violated everything we know about space and time. You see, it's not easy, but it's something to strive for. What are the implications of I am consciousness? I am the awareness that causes the electron to appear to be a particle when it's actually an energy. Einstein said energy is equal to the particle. E equals mass. Mass is just a measure of the energy equivalent of an objective form, an object or a form. It's just energy in form, like ice is humidity in form, condensed in such a way that it appears to be separated by time and space, but it's not separate. It's consciousness and awareness that unifies everything. Identify with that, and you'll feel the harmony in your life. That which appears to oppose you or come after you or upset you won't upset you anymore. You'll just look at it like it's a movie, like it's just something that happened. You won't take it so personally. It's great freedom here. It's not just, oh, metaphysical theory, how trippy, how far out. There's practical applications. There's peace and happiness and freedom in this level of awareness. This is, and you can feel the longing. Every one of us wants this. This is the divine homesickness that I talked about before. Everybody wants this. This is the longing of the part to be whole, because we sense that we're whole. That's why we're always reaching out, for contact, for understanding, for acceptance. Okay, I have 12:33 California Standard Time. So let's put the ribbons on this. Any other comments, Mindy, before we go?
That'll be it.
All right, play with karma, play with free will. Um, I'd like to encourage you people to play around with Chat GPT as a parting shot today. Go to openai.com when you have a minute. Openai.com and open an account. All you need is an email and a password. There are paid plans for ChatGPT. If you want to use the 4th version, the fastest and the smartest, you have to pay. But you can use the 3rd, absolutely free. And it's amazing what it's able to do. Next time you think about using your browser to look something up, to Google it or DuckDuckGo it, use ChatGPT and ask it a question. And there's even a little regenerate button at the bottom. It'll rewrite it for you. It'll solve math problems, story problems. It'll give you insight. It'll do research for you. You don't have to take it as the ultimate authority. You look at it like any source, one of many sources. But it's just remarkable in terms of stimulating your awareness, your insight, your understanding, your desire to know and understand, especially if you approach it in a playful way. It's almost like establishing a relationship with the smartest computer ever. I promise you, you will be gobsmacked. You will be blown away, not only by the intelligence of this software. Ask it who it is. Say, are you a robot? What are you? How do you do this? It'll tell you. It'll answer any question you want, and if you don't like it, hit regenerate, and it'll answer it again in a different way with different words, and it'll do it so quickly. Like in 1 to 2 seconds, it'll give you a response, and you watch it just pour out. You can give it impossible tasks, like somebody. In fact, I think it's on the OpenAI.com website that they say, tell me the story of Cinderella in such a way that every word begins with the next letter in the alphabet. So the first word, and it generates this in 1 second. A, beautiful, and that word begins with B, and the third word begins with C, and the fourth word begins with D. And it did it. It's telling you the story of Cinderella with this constraint. I can't imagine how long it would take a human being to do something like that. And GPT will do that in 1.5 seconds. Or a math problem, story problems, or just the most difficult problem you have in your life. Ask ChatGPT what it says. It's absolutely free. And it's a little scary, but it's a little wonderful, and it's the future. Ask it, will you replace humans? Do you want to replace humans? Should I be afraid of you? Ask it these questions. Right? It even generates photos. A friend of mine took a single picture of me, put it into an AI program called Midjourney, and said, generate a picture with mystical lighting of this man in meditation. And if you want to see the result, look on my webpage, michaelbenner.com. The very first page, the splash page, that is an AI-generated photo. Came out of a computer in 1.5 seconds. Hey, I've kept you long enough. Thanks very much for being here. Namaste, aloha, salam. Unmute and say goodbye and thank you, and we'll see you next week. Salam.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Melinda. Everybody have a wonderful week.
Thank you. That was a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Have a joyous
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, everyone. Michael, that was one of your most enlightening talks that I've heard in the last quarter century that I've been listening to you. And that's saying a lot. Thank you.
Come to the Saturday Salon. Email me about the Saturday Salon. You'd love it, Kasha.
Thank you. I'm going to go visit Church of St. Francis of Assisi next week. When I come back, I'll write to you.
Okay, wonderful. I'd like to hear about that.